Welcome back to Cool Times Podcast, everybody. We are your host. I have Jenna to my right, business partner, life partner, the boss, also co-host Vince Free. Man, we're here. We talk all things cool about the cold storage construction industry, and we got a pretty cool cat, on the other side of the camera here. Good friend of ours in the industry, Kurt Liebendorfer from Evapco. He is the refrigeration equipment supplier for the entire industry, right, Kurt? Is that you?
It's a goal. It's a goal.
Okay.
It's a goal.
It's a goal. Now, but you're vice president, industrial refrigeration, business development. You're all over the place. You do a great job. And we are here to talk about you and everything you do for this awesome cold storage industry.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's an honor to be speaking with you today. Look forward to it.
Well, tell us a little bit about your cool entrance into this cold storage industry. Were you always with Evapco? Were you always on that refrigeration equipment supplier side, or are there layers?
There's many, many layers.
Yeah.
Sad to say, next year, around circa that time, circa 85, I actually started in refrigeration, industrial refrigeration. So for nearly 40 years, I've spent my entire career in industrial refrigeration. Now, that umbrella also crosses over, outside of food and beverage, actually very heavily in the petrochemical oil and gas industry and the energy industry. So I actually started in the food and beverage industry in 1985, working for what is now GIA, a compressor manufacturer in York, Pennsylvania. They, at the time, were called FES, Freezing Equipment Sales. And it all began there. The story I like to tell about my entrance into the market, I got that job because I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in mechanical engineering, and about that same year. And I had a photograph that I showed my interviewer at FES, now GEA, of a mock-up car air conditioning system that I constructed as an intern at a company that made car air conditioning system components. And I was in their R&D lab, and I put together a test stand where they ran in the Tecumseh compressors that would be in your car, and the heater core and the radiator. And we put it all together when we did a quality check by running this as an intern. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I put these components together. So when I had that interview, of course, nobody had cell phones back then. I showed the photograph to the interviewer, and you're hired. You know what the
Wow. You invented air conditioning for cars?
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
That's insane.
That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Like, I got hooked.
Absolutely.
So the guy you was interviewing you took that, and now he's got the beach house in Maui.
Yes. Yeah. Through all my 40 years of work.
Unbelievable.
I was there for 6 years, and at the time, they don't do this anymore, but FES did both manufacturing and contracting. They were a contractor in the Mid-Atlantic region for refrigeration. And I was an application engineer, and then I became responsible for the local market, which included the turnkey mechanical refrigeration construction and contract sales. So I got into the construction end, and that's what took me on my journey, because I really fell in love with the site work and the trades and building a project. And that led me to leave there after 6 years and move to Florida for 20 years.
Wow.
And I moved down there. I went to work for the Haskell Company when they were self-performing refrigeration. Got to know, at the time, they self-perform insulated metal panel work too.
Yeah.
And they self-perform electrical work. And they were really into the refrigeration aspect, and then decided to go a different direction a few years later. And I ended up across the river at the Stellar Group.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Spent 17 years at Stellar and fell more in love with construction and got to know a lot more of you panel guys.
You did.
Right. And some of my best friends are from those years and those experiences. For solid 10 years, I was a refrigeration project manager, putting together the jobs start to finish. And, from napkin to turning them over successfully for the owner and commissioning. And that whole process is truly my career love, is putting projects together and making them successful. And
sure.
Along the way, because I had worked at FES, who also did
Yep.
package systems at Stellar. I became the guy that advocated and started their prefabrication work in a big way, and started a skid business, a
Okay.
packaged skid business
Mm-hmm.
because of that background. And that led to the creation of a new business unit that was called Stellar Power and Utilities.
Wow.
And we quickly changed the name to Stellar Energy. And that business unit, when I left, what was 10 years after that, was doing, $100 million a year.
Wow.
It was
Jeez.
a lot of up and down in that market. So, feast or famine, like big projects.
Mhm.
And that led to some really crazy experiences. So the first half of that 20 years in Florida was food and beverage. And
Okay.
then after I got into the skid business, that took me into the energy market and the oil and gas market, where we did massive district cooling plants. One of my favorite projects was in Dubai. And if you're
Ooh.
familiar with
Wow.
Palm Jumeirah, the palm tree man-made islands in Dubai.
Interesting.
No, I'm
I'm
not.
not, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
look them up.
Yeah, Google it. Palm Jumeirah, man-made islands made to look like a palm tree. It's massive.
Oh.
And it was built 20 years ago in Dubai when they were developing all these mega projects. And Stellar successfully completed a 60,000 ton, which is, probably 80,000 horsepower chiller plant that's underground, hidden from the tourists. And
Okay.
No
it-
way.
yeah, it was actually the trunk of the Palm Jumeirah, which is a trunk coming off the mainland
Okay.
with all this mixed use high-rise construction. And then it's got all the palm branches that has all high-end residential condos. And then out at the end, they have this arching thing they call the Crescent, and there's a big Atlantis resort out there. And each area has its own massive cooling plant. And the Palm Jumeirah, we did the trunk.
Okay.
And in the middle of the trunk was actually a man-made river. So the properties that were inbound on the trunk were also waterfront, because this whole thing was in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah,
Google
we're
it.
looking at a
I'm looking
picture
at it
of
right
it
now.
right now. We
It's
will.
crazy.
I accidentally clicked on the YouTube of
You
it.
did click on the YouTube video
But this is
during a
insane.
podcast recording.
It is. And altogether, there's at least 200,000 tons of cooling. And so district cooling is, instead of each building have its
Yeah.
own cooling plant,
Yeah.
there's a central utility plant that pumps chilled water underground.
Uh-huh.
And the chilled water pipes coming out of the 60,000 ton plant were probably 48 inches in diameter
Wow.
to feed all these high-rise buildings.
Wow.
Well, this river that went down the middle of the trunk, it was an
Yeah.
environmental problem. Apparently, it created some tidal currents that were an environmental issue for that
Mm.
area of the Persian Gulf. So what did they do? They plugged it with a cofferdam and stuck the chiller plant inside of it. So it was a giant bathtub that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
blocking the river that came down through the trunk.
Yeah.
They solved the environmental problem by putting a cofferdam in it, which was essentially a giant bathtub
Yeah.
that they now put the chiller plant in the bathtub. And they killed two birds with one stone. They got rid of the environmental problem with the river, but then
Sure.
they also got the eyesore of this energy plant off of this tourist island and put it underground. So
Wow.
that whole change was a
That's-
change order.
The old change order, huh?
No change order.
Yeah, yeah. It was quite a large one.
I didn't know this existed, and that whole trunk area of all these high rises is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a second project that was even bigger, where they were constructing 100, and I'm not kidding, 170-story towers all at once. It's called Jumeirah Lake Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too big to feed with one plant, so we built 4 of them. And what we did was we constructed the chiller plant on skids in Jacksonville for Stellar and put them on a
Mhm.
boat and shipped them all over. So this was the
Jeez.
skid business that I mentioned was the journey I'm on. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
that business at Stellar became quite a big business, and it's now a separate company called Stellar Energy. And then I moved on and I went back up north, and I moved back to Maryland, and I went to work for Frick
Yep.
on the non-food and beverage side,
Yeah.
on the oil and gas side,
Yeah.
and energy side. And that's called York Process Systems, is that other side of their business. And
Yeah.
of course, fracking was big huge 10 years ago, and they're very, very heavy in fracking, and
Okay.
propane refrigeration is part of that business. So again, the skid business, and I moved over to Evapco in 2014. So I've just been here 10 years, and that whole prior journey led me to do what I've been doing here at Evapco, which is a package refrigeration business. So one thing led to another.
That's
Wow.
incredible. That is quite the resume, my
It
friend.
sure is.
A lot of fun projects. And because I changed markets, you know, you kind of forget about those past projects and worry about the new ones, and was reminiscing a year or so ago when I went back and I tried to, you know, find those projects online, and, you know, don't want to forget them. They were so
No, you
impactful.
don't. Well, I was going to ask you what your coolest project was, but I guess you told us.
Stumbled into it.
Yeah, that was awesome. You made my life easy. Real quick shout out to our show sponsors for the show. It's our friends at Versafoam.
Yes. Thank you,
Peter Bartell, and all those spray foam packs. We appreciate you, man.
and for sponsoring the Cool Times podcast, Cool Moments story.
Yeah,
This
you.
episode.
that
Thank you
was
as
the
well.
cool story right there, or cool project.
Very cool.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what drew you to Evapco, to make that change. And now you've been there for 10 years. Like, what keeps you there?
Well, I specifically came to start their Evapco business, the Evapco low charge ammonia packaged unit business. That was a new technology that Evapco wanted to get into, and I was specifically hired to lead that effort and evolution. And it's been, you know, a lot of hard work to over the 10 years. And Evapco's got, you know, tremendous research and development capabilities. That's well known in the industry for all their R&D and investment in high quality products. So that endeavor with these packaged low charge ammonia units was a brand new undertaking, and the commitment that Evapco has to it is just very powerful, you know, because it took us several years, many years, to build the, you know, it's a disruptive technology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The traditional systems have, you know, one of the things I think I can say confidently is I've seen more change in the last 5 years than in the previous 50 years with the industrial refrigeration market around ammonia, because ammonia has kind of always been this design, build, field erected, stick built, component based concept. And the process of building it into pre-engineered, pre-designed, manufactured products was disruptive. And I give an analogy that's how the air conditioning market used to be 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, when big buildings were starting to be built, you know, in the mid 20th century, air conditioning systems were stick built too. And, you know, the market's so big, and that growth happened aggressively over, you know, decades, that now air conditioning is off the shelf, packaged chillers, packaged condensing units. So that industry went through that transformation, the air conditioning industry. Ammonia industry is now kind of just started that transformation, you know, 10 years ago.
You think we're heading that way then, huh?
Yes, I do, but there is a real fit for purpose with ammonia refrigeration being very versatile, very adaptable to large projects.
Sure.
Cold storage is the first place for these packaged units to find a home because it's more repeatable, it's more defined, where you can put that effort and have a product that gets quickly applied, so to speak.
Sure.
Whereas, you know, you go up the food chain, so to speak, into the larger facilities and then the food and beverage manufacturing industry that are anything but that, you know, very, very diverse in type and requirements and duties, that field erected, stick built, design built ammonia systems will forever be there, in my opinion.
Sure.
There
It
is-
all has a place. It is a sensitive topic.
It is.
In our industry right now, when you talk refrigeration, everyone has an opinion, and some are more sensitive to others. And is it Freon? Is it ammonia? Is it CO2? What's better? Why is it better? What's more energy efficient? What's going to be, you know, what's going to go away? The government's going to make this go away, or what's changing? Like, there's so many opinions about this right now.
Yeah, it's hard to be an owner now. There's too many choices. We've made it hard with all these choices,
Mhm.
and solutions. I honestly feel bad about that.
No kidding. No, I do. I do too. Yeah, it's tough.
Mhm.
Especially when you're building, uh, a lot of these guys are building these spec buildings, right? And you really don't know what the temperature is going to be, and you build these little rooms, and then all of a sudden you build kind of like stem wall, pony walls in case a client wants to add a room, and you have all these different things going on. You don't have a tenant yet, but how do you know what refrigeration system to put in there?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
don't know what they're storing. Because is when
Lots
you're
of rules of
designing
thumb,
designing
right?
a refrigeration system, you want to know, hey, what product are you storing? What's it coming in at? How much humidity is coming off the product, right? All these things, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
and nothing is known if you don't even know who the tenant is yet.
yep. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
So I guess, how do we get around that?
Uh,
Like, what do we do?
Well, there's been a steady onboarding of rules of thumb.
Got it.
yeah.
The rule of thumb, uh, 10 years ago for years in terms of the refrigeration load was 350 square feet per ton.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You could take the square foot of a building, divide it by 350, and there's your cooling load. And then, of course, the temperatures, that was an easier conversation. Freezer or cooler. Of course, now
Hmm.
it's both.
I know.
Hmm. Yep.
But it's still definable. And uh, however, the 350 per square foot rule was
Hmm.
got a legacy history to it. It was older buildings that aren't as efficient as they are today.
Yep.
All the technologies that today buildings solve infiltration and things like that. And it took honestly 10 years that I would say that answer today from folks that know the rules of thumb in the refrigeration, it would be 450 square feet per ton due to buildings being tighter, better management of doors, better management of temperature. A lot of automation actually makes the cooling load go back up because of the motors.
Okay. Yeah, I never
But
thought of
but
that.
that's how you would budget a building that's not defined with any
You're
loading.
dividing 350 by the square footage of the building?
Yes,
Well, how do you account for if the building's 40 feet tall or
you're
58
right.
feet tall?
That would be a 40, 50-foot building only.
Okay. So there's
Um,
kind of that rule of thumb of like how tall the building is.
well, not yet. Actually, high-rise buildings are fairly new that
Mhm.
I've seen 200 square feet per ton,
Mhm.
175 square feet per ton,
Sure.
225. So maybe it's half
Mhm.
or double rather. But that's also another example how the industry has changed
Mhm.
and the prevalence of high-rise buildings in terms of refrigeration system design is fairly
Yeah,
new in the last 5 years. So what
absolutely.
the actual determination of what refrigeration load should be, uh, people need to go back into these new high-rise buildings and taking measurements to find out if they put too much or not enough in. And what I probably see is being conservative and maybe putting extra refrigeration in because you really don't know.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
So the level of
yeah.
redundancy, which is fine, but um,
Hmm.
an effort to know exactly what the industry says as
Yeah.
feedback. There's a great IR GCCA or SEBA topic
Mhm.
is what is the end user seeing in the actual required cooling loads for high rises.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay. I like that.
Mhm.
So is there anything, as far as Evapco is concerned, is there anything from a technology standpoint that you guys have that is latest and greatest coming out, exciting technologies you know about, haven't introduced yet?
Yeah, of course, the ever improving low charge ammonia Evapco technology is certainly a topic, but what's even newer than that is CO2. 2.5 years ago, Evapco made two significant acquisitions in the refrigeration space,
Okay.
and one was a company called LMP Systems out of Montreal, Quebec. LMP Systems specializes in trench critical CO2 packages. There's others in the industry that would be considered their brethren, M&M and Carnot and Zero Zone
Mm-hmm.
and folks like that also make this technology. So now Evapco made that acquisition and is in that space. CO2 is really onboarded heavily In fact, it's onboarding faster than the industry can keep up with, and very popular with these new spec buildings because it's not ammonia and it's not, a Freon. So it's kind of the simple choice to that refrigerant question. But of course, there's other implications to making that decision. And also 2 years ago, Evapco made another acquisition by acquiring a company called Select Technologies, which is a PLC controls integrator, turnkey. They'll actually do the complete control system for a major production or processor like Tyson. Well, they'll
Okay.
go in and they'll do all of the integration and controls for the production floor.
Wow.
And we have been involved with them over the years. They actually did a fair amount of work for us on different products and projects. So 2.5 years ago, we acquired them, and that's been big for us because we're now putting Select Technology, and we call it Evap Select Tech, Evapco Select Tech. And so Evapco Select Tech is now putting their control panels in our packaged products as well. So the Evap Cold package, the LMP CO2 package, they will have the Select Tech control architecture in them. So that, a lot of technology heavy investments in the last couple of years and a lot of moving parts.
Absolutely. So why CO2? What's the advantages of going to CO2 then?
One of the main drivers is it is environmentally friendly and human friendly, I'll say.
Okay.
You look at ammonia, it's great for the environment, it's great for the system, but it's toxic. So it has these life safety issues that you have to plan for. You look at Freon, it's also great for the system, but it's not great for the environment, but it's safe around people. This is why Freon is the dominant refrigerant in the HVAC world and will be for a long time. So neither one of those is good for both, people and the system. CO2 is good for the system, and it's I'll say good for people where it's not toxic. If it's not ammonia, people that are in the ammonia industry love to say that it's self-alarming. As soon as you smell ammonia, which is completely safe, just smelling it, there's a leak and you go the other way. You don't know there's a leak if it's Freon or CO2. So if you're in a room and the air conditioner leaks, you wouldn't know it by smell, and you could just black out from asphyxiation from the refrigerant displacing the air. So that's how an ammonia guy will explain how ammonia is safe, because it's self-alarming and if there's a leak long before it's dangerous. Whereas with the other refrigerants, you don't know it and asphyxiation happens. So but long story short, that's why CO2 is so popular. It's not toxic, so it's safe for human comfort cooling, I guess is the way to put it, and also very good in a refrigeration system. So it's a combination of those two things that have made it very popular, because in these new, facilities, if it's ammonia, they got to contend with the life safety issues. If it's Freon, they got to think about what that means in the future. So those two questions don't exist with CO2.
Yeah.
And the demand is greater than the supply right now.
Really? Is it a more costly system than
It's somewhere in between, competitive, it might be 10% less than an ammonia system on the scale of what, type of projects we work on,
if that's
right?
the case, why would anybody even do ammonia if you can go CO2?
It's got a couple reasons. One is it's higher energy. Just to use a rule of thumb, as generic as my 10% less was, the generic statement, CO2 uses more energy, but it does.
Got it.
So that's a big thing. And the other is it's still an evolving technology. The ammonia industry is very mature, a lot of best practices that are very successfully able to manage that risk.
Yep.
Whereas CO2, it's not mature at all. It's in its infancy. And there is a ton of lessons learned and best practices being learned right now. So executing a big CO2 project takes an expert team to do a project that has sufficient time for that team to do all the due diligence and best practices along the way. An ammonia project you can move fast on because there's a large pool of people out there that know the best practices whereas that's not the case with CO2. And CO2 came to the cold storage market from Canada, and it came to Canada from Europe because of the Montreal Protocol. So they were early signatories to the Montreal Protocol and came to market with the CO2 technology, which is very prevalent in Europe for the same reason, and is now prevalent in Canada and is moving into the US, but it moved into the US into the supermarket business,
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
where the applications are small and these
Yeah.
best practices have been established in the supermarket industry. 10 years ago is when it kind of started. And a lot of the national retail chains have been converting off of freons to CO2. And they're a good place for that technology to have started because it's, you call it a rack, right? It's a package skid that's got the compressors on it. That's what the
Mhm.
freon equivalents were called, racks. So the CO2 version of that is also called a rack. So a supermarket store, it might have one rack, and then it's piped to the cases in the store. And of course, the control system on these racks, they call them case controllers because they're controlling the cases in the supermarket. They're piping CO2 into the supermarket
Wow.
to cool the cases.
Of course.
So there's hundreds of these in the US now. Major retailers have slowly been phasing out the HFC versions and putting in the CO2. And of course, this is refrigeration, right? So it's a good fit. But now it's onboarding into large cold storages where it's not just one rack, it's 3 or 4, and they're twice as big as each one, and then connected to 30, 40, 50 evaporators instead of cases. And there's a whole multiplier on complexity of these projects that the industry is plowing through right now. There's many players in the market. Europe manufacturers are coming here to the US too because it's already occurred there. But of course, we have these bigger projects in the US.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of the wild, wild west with CO2 right now.
I like that.
Wild West.
But I think it's an interesting option that's could gain momentum. I mean, like you said, we've seen a lot of change in the last
Mhm.
5 years compared to even the last 50. So I wonder what this will look like
For sure.
even a few years from now.
Yeah, so Evapco is quite busy because we now offer both ammonia
Okay.
and CO2. So
Sure.
we find ourselves quoting both on major projects, which is a lot of fun.
Yep. Yep.
But then we get to participate in the evaluation of what the best fit is. And
Sure.
that's an area that we're working hard to. I actually want to take ChatGPT and upload both programs, and it spits out the answer. That's a goal of mine.
Yeah. Create a bot.
I tried to give it to my son over the summer.
Yeah.
I'm now paying $20 a month for the online version that does that.
There you go. Absolutely. All that is obviously very interesting to learn about.
Super interesting.
Obviously everything you guys have got going on with ammonia and CO2. As far as the cold storage industry, you have a long history, starting from Haskell to Stellar to Frick all the way down through. And what do you think? What's something that surprised you the most about the cold storage industry?
I would guess it would say the attraction to CO2 happening as fast as it did, because it was
Ooh.
overlaid with the tremendous growth of these spec
Yeah.
buildings.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Do you see, do you see the spec building market slowing down at all, or do you still see it pretty hot and heavy? Obviously, with the news this year about a large company, IPO and all that. I mean, obviously it's going to attract some eyeballs, right? So, how do you see the market right now?
I think the spec side of it has plateaued. I don't know that slow down, but
Mhm.
it was on a trajectory that I think perhaps plateaued. And
Sure.
it's a common repeating theme that I hear a lot on projects that we're pursuing, that waiting for the tenant. A lot of the spec buildings were going to get built before they had tenants. That's not the case anymore. They're waiting. So there's a lot of waiting on these project development efforts.
There's a lot out there for sure.
Mhm.
And a lot of people waiting until
There's a
the
lot of
interest rates
waiting.
come down
Yeah,
before they
there's
start
that
pulling.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are selling equipment, refrigeration equipment to all the refrigeration contractors in the United States. Is that your territory?
Correct. Yeah, the term industrial refrigeration contractor is meant to denote them as a different market segment than mechanical contractors, right? But refrigeration contractors, same.
Got you. Right on.
So that's our channel, and part of Evapco's success is serving that industrial refrigeration contractor base is
Sure.
through independent reps that have been
Okay.
Evapco's independent reps for 30, 40 years.
You guys have
We've
independent reps?
we do.
Okay.
But they go by, like on the West Coast, it's cooling equipment sales. On the East Coast, it's Mid-Atlantic refrigeration and Southern equipment sales, and North Atlantic refrigeration. In the Midwest, it's Stanton and Associates. And in the South, it's IR sales. So and then we have Solar Ref for South America or Mexico.
Yeah.
And, each one of those offices independently owned and has been an Evapco representative for 20, 30 years. And, they might have anywhere from 5 to 15 people, and they are connected at the hip with all the refrigeration contractors because there's every day talking to them and selecting equipment, quoting equipment, chasing warranty, helping with design. So the strength that Evapco has in the market has everything to do with the way we support those contractors through that channel.
Yeah. Are you meeting with these reps and keeping them up to speed on the latest and greatest, helping them out in any way? Is your job also to manage all that?
No, I have a lot of help here to accomplish that. We divide up those reps and have regional sales managers here in-house, where I'm located in the urban city of Tawnytown, Maryland.
Yeah.
About an hour northwest of Baltimore towards Gettysburg. And here at headquarters, we have regional sales managers that day to day take care of those sales reps. And then we have a national sales manager, Adam Radford, who is helping to herd all those cats. And, I'm wearing a tie here because that's the everyday attire here in Tawnytown, because we have customer visitors every single day.
Yeah.
Almost.
Do you really?
This time of year anyway, every other day for sure. Our engagement with customers, we try to get them here because there's so much to see here. We have 500,000 square feet of manufacturing, 100,000 square feet of art, research and development.
Wow.
There's about 650 people here. There's everything we make, you can see here, and then you see all the latest R&D. And so
That's
we
cool.
attract our customers to come here. So the tie, I'm stuck with the tie.
I love it, man. I love it. You're like the only one besides probably Brett Wedding that wore a tie on our podcast. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I thought about it. I'm like, no, I'd get a hard time from my my superiors if I did.
Dude,
We'll cut this part out.
That's great. That's awesome.
I like it. But that's cool that you have a facility like that where you invite people in to show them what you're doing, to answer questions, to help them fully understand what it is that Evapco is doing and bringing to the market. Like that, I mean, there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and please, you're invited. Please come when you're on the East
I want
Coast.
to.
That would be really fun.
I have to check that out. I'm not going to buy anything, but man, I want to see it.
That's all right. We have a lot of since all this activity and navigating these too many choices. I actually and because of my background and involvement in the industry, we actually have a lot of general contractors come through just to learn.
Sure.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, you go.
No, you go back.
I mean, I was just going to comment. It's really cool to see, it's cool to have a factory where you can get customers in to see what you are making. It helps sell. I mean, typically after a tour, it sells itself. But I was going to ask you, with that being said, why would one buy from Evapco?
Quality and customer service. Our position in the market is we're not the cheapest, but you get what you pay for, and you'll get high quality and superior customer service from Evapco. When I was at Stellar and Haskell, I was the customer,
Yeah,
e-
that's
yeah.
true.
Even back then, they had that image and that place in the market. And when I came on, I'm like, how is that so sustainable?
Mm.
And one of the reasons it's sustainable, it's a true ESOP. This
Mhm.
company is employee owned, and
Oh, no
when these
way.
yeah, when these customers come in and are taking the tours to the factory, the production people are very helpful and supportive and friendly and courteous, and they always have a common experience of a customer taking note of that. And it's the ESOP is a big part of it. And you know,
Yeah.
its success has made them successful.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all the listeners out there, an ESOP is an employee stock ownership program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And yes. And
They're
it's
growing in popularity.
they are
We're
very
seeing a lot more
very
of them.
popular. Well, I mean,
But it makes sense.
everyone's got skin in the
Everyone
game,
is-
man.
Yes, exactly. Everyone's
It's cool.
tied to a common goal, a
Mhm.
common mission, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's
Put
a
more
lot of
heart in it.
buy-in.
You
Mhm.
get the buy-in, yeah,
Absolutely.
which is a big deal for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, okay, if our listeners want to find out more about what Evapco is doing, where can they find information? What socials are available? What are you guys doing to kind of put out into the world information about all of your products?
Well, Evapco.com, I guess, would be my first answer.
Okay.
We do feature everything there.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot there, so finding it is maybe a chore, but it's there. And we
Mhm.
have a lot of tremendous content, particularly on these packages, white papers, case
Mhm.
studies,
Mm.
best practices, specifications,
Mhm.
videos. We like videos. There's a lot of videos there.
Mhm.
And we do find people that are, you know, researching stuff do go there. So that's very successful. And you can also find who your local representative is on that website.
Okay.
Putting in your zip code, it'll tell you who the local Evapco representative is. And of course, they're local, hopefully, to where
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
customer is. And we can go out and meet them personally.
Okay.
And also find that direct contact quickly, right? To be able to get
Mhm.
on the phone with somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Go to
then
a
if
lot of
someone,
trade
yeah,
shows as well.
Ah,
a lot of trade. That's what
okay.
I was gonna. That was my next question.
go.
How many trade shows? I'm not gonna ask that question
Oh,
yet.
okay, not yet.
How many conferences or trade shows do you go to a year? You personally?
You know, somewhere between 6 and 8.
Okay.
Wow. Which ones?
Of course, GCCA, SEBA. There's a refrigeration conference called Atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
which is about the natural refrigerants. Atmo,
Okay.
it's called.
Atmo.
I like it.
Yep.
And then the other refrigeration specific conferences, IIAR,
Yep. I know that one.
International Institute of All Natural Refrigerants. They went through a name change. The
I
A
did.
was ammonia. Now it's all natural.
Ah,
Really? When did they
Yeah.
change that?
Less than a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they are now writing the standards and the specifications for CO2 and
Mhm.
hydrocarbons, propane being the main one. So they're embracing the other natural refrigerants in their body of work.
Sure.
And the other one that I occasionally go to is RETA, Refrigeration Engineers and
I know
Technicians
Rita. Yep.
Association,
mhm.
which is really cool because it's got all the operators and service technicians. So a lot
Yep.
of, and they do great training.
They do
So
certifications there too.
yeah, it
Yeah.
makes me
Mhm.
think of the SEBA Pro where Rita has been super successful
Yep.
with that mission. Poultry show,
Sure.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
The process, what are they, IPP, that's the poultry show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
IPP. Mm-hmm. I know that
Mhm.
one.
Yeah. And I go to a
You're not going to Pack
few,
Expo, are you? No.
no. And we have a lot of people that attend in varying degrees, those shows I
Sure.
just mentioned. I'm actually trying to find out what shows you guys are going to.
But what's your favorite show?
Oh.
It's GCCA and SEBA. It's a toss up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
because the direct engagement is the best of any of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
it really is. We go to the I'm calling it the big three now, although
Oh.
Icon is obviously just started. Icon Cold has just started, but obviously GCCA and SEBA.
SEBA.
And you will see us at SEBA
Mhm.
November 11th
Shortly.
in Sawgrass, Florida.
Mhm.
Coming
See
up
you there.
quick. We will see you there. And then what
Mhm.
is your involvement in SEBA right now?
I'm on the board of directors in year number 2, which is a lot of fun. You know, I've been very active in the preceding years with the Construction Codes Committee, Government Affairs, the crossover with GCC on the Refrigeration Energy Committee when it was active. So a lot of good work being done there on real topics.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the best kept secrets is the white paper library that GCCA has.
Oh yeah. We're not telling anyone about that, man.
I know. Well, I mentioned it.
I love that. Dude, that's awesome.
Oh.
Those are awesome shows.
Yes. Well, we will look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah.
Ditto.
All right. My guy, any other things going on over at Evapco we need to know about?
Well, because of, and it's a good place to kind of summarize it, because of these package systems
Uh-huh.
and the complexities that they require a different deliverable from Evapco than just a component sale.
Sure.
We recognize and are working on delivering the whole project management support system that goes with it because of the responsibility we now have for system operation. Having an evaporator operate successfully is really dependent upon the compressors and the condensers and everything in between. Well, now that's kind of all in these packages.
Mm-hmm.
The liability, the responsibility of them working as advertised is critical. Evapco is positioned in the market. It has been for many years, fully rated equipment, guaranteed performance. We don't commercialize our ratings at all. It's 100% rated, fully rated units that we have third-party testing. We have a lot of outside third parties come in and validate our ratings. So that responsibility we take seriously. And so having the project resources to support projects, not just widgets, is a matter that's really important to my heart because of having come from the construction side of the industry, at least half of my career, recognize that that's really important.
I like that.
I love that. That's really good. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time and I want to get you to our sponsored segment of the show, the Rapid Round Questions, sponsored by Versafoam. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I get to bombard you with really fun get to know you questions. If I could find them, there they are. But we're going to do something a little more laid back and fun today. You good with that?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. This or that questions, man. Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Mountain.
Morning person or night owl?
Oh my God, night owl.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah. Concert or a sporting game?
Concert.
Camping or hotel stay?
Camping.
There you go. All right. Superhero power time. Flight or invisibility? I
got to fly. Always want to fly.
Oh, that'd be
like
cool.
it.
Are you a Netflix binge guy or a movie theater guy?
Netflix binge for sure.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
They made it so easy.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I know.
Box and box project or a ground up project?
Ground up because I like the greenfield.
Yeah. Yep. I like that. Are you cold beer or cold drink?
I'm going to have to go for the Crown and Ginger.
Ooh, there you go.
Like
yeah.
My friends know that too well, so I'm too predictable for the Christmas gift.
Brown. I'm getting this. And ginger. I'll know that when I see you. And
I love it.
in Ponte at Seba, I know what to get you. You want a lime in that by chance?
Either way.
Okay. Straight. All right. Lime. Don't say lime. Got you. Okay. Ping pong or air hockey?
Ping pong.
Beachside or poolside?
Beach.
Justin Bieber or Justin Timberlake?
Oh, Timberlake.
All right. That
I actually like him best. I actually like him best for his late night antics.
Oh, SNL.
Yeah, right.
Oh, not the drinking and driving part.
You're right. Or necessarily the music.
That's
but
so
it's
good.
fine.
I know, dude. That's awesome. Dude, Kurt, you're a stud. You've been an awesome guest. And, you guys can find this podcast on YouTube, Cool Times Podcast. Hit the red subscribe button, spread the word. And then obviously you will be able to listen to this on your iPhone with the podcast app or on Spotify. And who doesn't have Spotify? So you'll be able to listen to that. Also, our socials, Kurt, are LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. Yeah, that's where you'll find us. And again, thank you, Versafoam, for sponsoring the show. Kurt, you are the man. We appreciate you. And man, we're going to see you soon.
We'll see you real soon.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you both. This has been an honor. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kurt.
Thank you.